Today, we're looking at Diamine Cerise. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Diamine Cerise is a pink, sometimes with little magenta-y tones to it, color of ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Nemosine Singularity to take my notes for this video. Now before we get to the writing samples, let's take a look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this is very pink all the way up. Light pink on the bottom, darker towards the top. Couple little magenta spots that just come through. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. You can't tell the difference between the two of them. Exactly the same, which makes me feel that there's going to be no resistance for this ink whatsoever. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean out of your pens. Now they let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, we see that the capital H seems to get some spread, but that's the only effect the highlighter seems to really be having on it, which is quite nice and unexpected after the chromatography. Water is reactivating and pulling a lot of this ink up. We see that the letters, when they got touched, were disappearing. Most of the ink is coming off, but a lot is still left behind. Pen flush is reactivating and absolutely killing it from the page. Strangely, we got some dark sections that showed up. I don't know if that was something left over from the paper towel, but those dark couple little rings are interesting because I didn't see it in the chromatography. And the bleach, as would be expected, completely destroys this ink. But I believe it would only take water to clean this from your pens. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine Cerise has a viscosity of 3.8. Yes, you heard that. 3.8. That's the far right on this bell curve. This is not going to be a good ink if you have a very, very stubborn pen. Okay? If you have a pen with some flow problems, this would not be a good ink to use. To find my average dry times, I use the writing samples done with the medium and extra fine nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rodya Paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. And Diamine Cerise, despite that crazy high viscosity, has a dry time of 17 seconds, which isn't just normal, it's completely average. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I got this ink in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at Clairefontaine. I am apparently having all kinds of problems today. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. The extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 11 seconds to dry. The medium, same story. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us that we do not get any color variation. The smear says we could likely recover this. Likely. We might lose little bits, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. Tomoe River gave us no bleeding. It gave us some ghosting, even with the light ink, because it's Tomoe River. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. I know it looks like I'm pushing through on some of this because I'm moving faster now. This is not a stellar ink, but it has certain qualities that are very nice. The extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. Wow. The medium has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade, 24 seconds to dry. The scrubby in both show us that we're not going to get any color variation, and the smear said you wrote it on Tomoe River, so you're not allowed to recover. Now we got to the part that I find interesting, the Rodya paper. Rodya gives us no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. The extra fine has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, and 13 seconds to dry. But it's a definite tone difference. So here we start seeing some real tone difference from the extra fine to the medium. It's 13 seconds to dry. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. That's an extra fine. But this is a Singularity. Same type of paper. Still Rodya. Very different tone. Paper even looks a different tone, but it's all Rodya dot pad. Very different tone for using a drier pen. And this drier pen actually shows a little bit of color variation, which is what made it so neat. This is a nice pink. I like this color pink. I don't like it on a lot of papers. I like it on the Rodya. The medium gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shading. Definitely a darker tone than we had with the extra fine. 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us no color variation. The smear said you might maybe be able to recover it. But here's the other part that made it exciting. One part made it exciting was how different it wrote with the Singularity, a dry pen. But the other part that made it quite exciting was the yellow paper. So I tested it on yellow Rodya, and I got no bleeding and no ghosting, of course. The 1.1, look at the color change first. It's definitely a little darker, a little nicer pink. To me, a little nicer pink. And I like this pink on this paper. But this is a little nicer. This is a nice standout, not hard to read, and lets you have a pink ink. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shading. The extra fine has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. 13 seconds to dry. The medium, still no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows us we get no color variation. And the smear said you could recover this better on yellow than you could on the white Rodya. So that's one of the things that's really neat. It performs very different on the yellow background than it did the white background. And entirely different by pen and nib. And this is a nice color pink. This is a nice tone of pink here. So I went for a very white original Crown Mill laid paper. And we get no bleeding. We get no ghosting. The 1.1 gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Still a very nice pink. The extra fine gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 6 seconds to dry. The medium, definitely a darker tone than what we got with the extra fine. I prefer the extra fine tone than the medium. So this is one of the things I like about all these writing samples that I actually do, is it also lets me, in the end, if I'm going to go be picky and say what ink and nib go together better. It's not even just about the pen. It's that individual nib in how wet, how dry, how broad, or how fine. All of these factors together, along with the flow of the ink, help actually choose something better. This is all chosen for uniformity's sake. So the medium gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 10 seconds to dry. Still a lovely pink. The scrubby, for the extra fine, the only reason it looks lighter on the left is there's more white of the page. There's areas where I didn't fill it in as well. We have no color variation. As has been normal on this paper, if I smear it, I don't get to recover it. But I do get to start seeing some of the texture of the paper. So I went and I checked Black and Red Notebook. They gave me no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 with them gave me no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Then something interesting happened with the extra fine. It got a little lighter than it was with the 1.1. It gave us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and shade. shade came around on the black and red paper with an extra fine. And it's neat because it's showing up all over the writing here. And we haven't had that through the other writing samples, except with the very dry Singularity on my notes. But it happened here with an extra fine. We're getting shading in quick. The brown gets a very dark at the B. It gets a much lighter on the OW. The jumps goes from lighter to darker, so we're definitely getting it. Only 8 seconds to dry. Medium gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. We do not get the shading with the wetter, broader nib. 11 seconds to dry. When I look at the scrubby, I see exactly what happened in the writing. The extra fine scrubby definitely gets some color variation. We get more color variation in the writing than we do the extra fine scrubby. The medium shows us no color variation. There we go. The smear said you can't recover this. If you smeared it, it's not going to be the end of the world, but I think on black and red paper, that's where you want to go with this ink. It does fantastic. Or use that very dry pen. That's all that I have for the writing sample. Instead of finding an ink that looks like Diamine Cerise, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Being a bright pink, I really thought about a black, and that led me to Private Reserve's Velvet Black. Because, you know, pink and black, that's like Bret Hart. Before I give my opinions on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Diamine Cerise? It was interesting because I've tested a lot of pink inks, and I find many of them can be either too light to really read or so vibrant they're truly, truly obnoxious to the eyes. And this one is neither of those. This is perfect. This is a great pink ink. I really do like this pink ink. I've only been able to find 3 or 4 pinks that are perfect, and this is one of them. Thanks for watching.